I'm comfortable giving it to anyone, because I think it is already an honors course, and it's already been an honors course this entire time, so I would have no problem giving anyone credit for it, because that's what it is. We're not changing it. If we were changing it, that would be a different story.
I heard you say Wood 4 did not exist last year, is that true? Wood 4
Correct.
is a new course this year, so it's only
It's
Wood
happening
4.
right now, but
So
it's
it's only
brand
Wood
new.
3 we're talking about that could possibly go into last year.
Into
And the
last year,
curriculum-
correct.
Curriculum last year and this year is identical
Right.
in terms of what's being done.
And I think there's definitely some students too who are focused on their, their rank and their GPA and all of that, and
Right.
pass up on this class who would really like to take this
Right.
class. And so by giving this honors credit, it'll open that door for those students, and it should, because it is a higher level course. So, is it a full year, Bob?
Yes,
It is.
yes, both are full year.
And how many students are currently in level 3 or 4?
I figured I was gonna come up, so I was trying, because I don't teach them.
Okay.
I know Alan's full course load this year is level 2, level 3, and level 4. He doesn't teach any level 1s. So I would guess about half of his course load is probably 3s and 4s, if I had to guess. So maybe somewhere 30 to 50, if I had to ballpark it.
And is his enrollment full? Is
Yes.
that a full enrollment?
Yes.
I mean, the way I look at it, if a kid took this class, despite the fact that they weren't getting honors credit, then they must have been more passionate about the class, that they were willing to take it anyway, right? More passionate than the kids who passed it up because they weren't gonna get honors credit. So, I think it makes sense to give honors credit to anyone, which, again, like you said, would only be last year and this year. But I'm comfortable with that. I don't know where the rest of the board,
No,
where the administration
yeah,
is.
I agree with that because, and, you could say, oh, well, someone would have taken it or could have, well, but, right, so if you've taken it, you can have the honors designation and, we're not going to worry about what you.
I'm not big on retroactivity.
But-
I really am not.
Because we've been down that road.
I
But
think that's a
the way we
slippery
worked out.
slope that, may guide us, not in this course, but somewhere else. So I would not do that.
Right, like did they do it when they gave honors?
Well, we've never
To the
done it
band?
in the past, no. It wasn't backtracked, it was.
When
So
that changed.
going forward, so it wasn't done before.
But if they
But-
change the course
But
content.
usually they change the course.
If the course
Usually,
content
but not
isn't
always.
changing, I don't know how you
Sometimes
can
it's just a
argue.
revisitation.
But if
I
the
guess if
course,
it's a revisitation, I would always not care about giving retroactive credit.
I don't know how you justify not giving it if the course content hasn't changed. I mean, I would say that you would have to change something to justify saying to people, well, you took it last year and you're not getting honors credit, but lo and behold, you've decided to, give honors credit, but we haven't changed the course. I mean, what's the justification for that? If you can offer an explanation, but otherwise, I think that to be fair, you have to give it to them. Or alternatively, you have to make the course different somehow to distinguish it from what it is now.
So I think we're comfortable with the way the course runs, and, you correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, that we already consider it that. So the logic you're speaking of is you didn't change anything, I'm taking this course, it should have been an honors course, it's going to be an honors course. So give the credit.
So you're on the next level, so they were at level 4 last year and this
Last
year,
year we
level
had
4.
level 4, that's correct.
No, level 4 we had.
Level four
Level
is
4 we
this
had
year.
this year, I'm sorry.
Right.
Sorry.
So,
Last year we had
and
level
so level 3 was only available to 11th and 12th graders before? Yes? Okay,
So
so I
if
mean,
you
how
have-
many kids are we talking about anyway that you'd be offering?
Kids will not be upset.
The other piece of the conversation to make sure that you're thinking about moving forward is there are very few honors courses in elective areas. And so this would be introducing an honors course to elective areas, which I think is a wonderful conversation to have around student giftedness and thinking about what those curricular areas need to look like. This most likely will then not be the last recommendation when the art department or the business department, or you fill in the blank, comes to say, our students are doing wonderful work, because that's true. I was at the art show. It's not just Wood, where those students are doing amazing work that I look at and say, I have no idea how a 17-year-old can do that, or an 18-year-old can do that. We as a board need to be careful about the conversations we have as to what becomes an honors course and worthy of weighted grades versus not when you're looking at curricular development in content areas, it is easier because there's generally an academic and an honors. Outside of APs, there's generally 2 levels, and so the curriculum can differentiate between those 2, and so the students select based off that differentiation. We are not making that differentiation here because there is not a level 3 academic would and an honors would. We are saying there is only honors, which is okay to say. There are other school districts that do that, and the curriculum can be written that way in terms of the level of work that is happening. And I do agree that this program is different from almost any other wood program I've ever experienced in terms of what is expected from the students. I don't know college wood well enough, but I trust that when they're saying that is true, that this is an AP type of college level course that students that are being considered for a weighted level. You just need to make sure that you're comfortable with what comes next and what those conversations sound like. Because in isolation, all of these sound wonderful. We need to make sure from a curriculum standpoint, we are establishing what is weighted credit and what is not weighted credit, and looking at the curriculum to be able to make those determinations.
So you said that other school districts do, that you've seen this in other school districts where they've given the honors designation.
It is rare that in any curricular document that there is an honors level without there being an academic level, except for AP, which is not obviously not called honors. It happens occasionally in world language when you get to a level 4 or a level 5 that it's only offered in honors because it's generally very few kids, and that happens occasionally, but it is very rare to have an honors course without having the academic selection because the students have to pick it at the honors level, which is unusual from a curriculum standpoint. But it's also unusual to have an honors level course in a encore area, in an elective area, and I congratulate the board for having that conversation because I think that is a very good path to walk down for kids who have multi-talents. We just need to make sure that we're having these conversations about then what is, right? Because you probably wouldn't say yes to everything, and so you just have to be careful about where that line is for you in terms of what it has to look like from a curriculum standpoint. And Dr. Scheid does a wonderful job of helping to be that gatekeeper with the curriculum documents and looks at that. And she and I have had that conversation about this course and this curriculum document. So I'm comfortable with the proposal. We need to be careful about the conversation that happens next. And I don't know what that will be and when that will be and which department, but it will happen because art loses kids to honors pre-calc as well. Or whatever they're losing kids to that are weighted courses.
I think that's fine. I mean, in my mind, while you were talking, I was thinking, for us in Pembridge, now we have students in elementary taking STEM and doing these, not exactly this, but you know what I'm saying, they are doing these sorts of things, so to me, that's academic. Now, when you get to the high school, and to have them, just like you said, I think German is one of the languages that it's automatically honors. I know one of my kids, it's automatically an honor, so if you opt into it. And so, since we start so early with our students, which I think is great, to me this seems logical. But I agree that you'll have to be careful about going forward with the other courses maybe that you would offer it to. I think this is an obvious one in my mind, just because of the level of artistry and
Well, I think the bar is also set high like an honors course, and so if a kid is not keeping up to that level, then they're not gonna, it's just like any other honors course that they would take. So, I think we might end up with an enrollment, issue where everybody wants to take this class. We're gonna have more people trying to get in, and then we're gonna figure out how to fit in more sections.
Sometimes yes and sometimes no. The business department tried that some years ago. They wanted to make County 2 an honors course, which we eventually did, and they still had trouble enrolling in that particular course. It just didn't attract me.
But I've heard that a lot of students want to take this, and some of them are afraid to because of how it'll affect their rank, which is upset,
that's constant.
which always bothers me, because I'd rather them take the classes
Yeah, because when do you get this opportunity again to do something like this? So, it is special, and if they have a skill, but I agree that they have to.
It can't just be
class last
you're taking, that anyone can do.
Right.
So do you have recommendations for kids or anyone who can?
I would say that a student to get from level 1 to level 2 is kind of like a tryout. And then from 2 to 3, you really have the kids that want to be there and can handle it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I'm fine with that at level 1, you know, come try whatever. You know, you talk about experiences here, I say that to kids all the time. Play whatever sport you want, take whatever class you want, because you're not, we've awesome things here, you're not gonna be able to do that when you leave. So I have no problem with the kid coming in, and I have some kids who've said it to me, Mr. P, you're great, and I loved your, this just isn't for me. I'm not taking that. Okay, fair enough. You know,
It's like trying new food.
But yeah, by level 3 and 4, I think you're talking about kind of the varsity, if you will, like kids that are gonna succeed.
We're not gonna have to give honors credit for varsity sports, are we?
And then the other thing is, if you're going into the level 3 course, then you had to have taken the first 2 courses. So
Right,
most
yeah.
of those kids, I mean, I don't know at that point that you get many of those kids who would have taken it if it was going to be an honors course, because then they would have had to take those other 2 years too. So they're either interested in it or they're not at that point, by the time you get to level 3. So where do we go, as far as figuring out where this, whether we make this retroactive?
So if we agree that's what we're going to do, then I will work with guidance office at the high school and we will track down the students.
What are your thoughts on retroactivity?
So I'm being pulled in 2 directions. So
Yeah, I know.
We never allowed it. We just didn't do it. There were a lot of students who would have been affected for various reasons. The logic behind we didn't change anything kind of pulls me in that direction because it is the same class. So I can see the logic. It does become a little difficult. In terms of this particular class, I don't know that the numbers would have been high for some of the things that we, the number of students that we have looked at this in the past, we put that an enormous amount of students. So I understand both sides. I certainly will support it. That's where we want to go, and I will work with the high school to ensure that it happens.
Should we take it in 2 separate parts? If everybody's comfortable with this being an honors course, and then just the other part separately, whether we would.
I would recommend that it be 2 separate motions on the agenda, because it is 2 separate actions, because one can be done without the other, right? So you're feeling about the course, and you're feeling about retroactive in terms of the GPA. The one piece I would say in support of making it retroactive, because I tend to be the same way that you are, Dr. Yarnell, and my first reaction is no, we play by the rules, and when you sign up for the courses, these were the rules. In this instance, for a student who is playing the GPA game, I don't think those are the students we're talking about here, because they would have chosen to take an honors course instead of this course. It's not like they took this course to play the GPA game. The kids who chose this course chose not to take a weighted class. So to give them a weighted is not going to tip somebody from 3 to 2 would be my guess, in terms of when we're talking about the GPA and the ranking. So I think in this case, the fact that the curriculum had not been touched, and it is the exact same course the kids have been taking, and that there wasn't an honors equivalency available to any student who chose not to take this course, that they could have taken an honors something, whether they did or not is up to them, but I don't think you face that battle of, oh, well, I would have taken it had I known. Well, there were options there for you to take the same weighted level or more for maybe student. So in this case, I would recommend that if you're going to do it, because it's the same class, that my support would be behind also giving the students who have it on the transfer. So, and we can find out how many kids that is, so you have that information prior to the vote, just in case that matters to you. We can also look at some GPAs to see whether it truly does make a difference from a standpoint of, oh, all of a sudden we change the rules for some group of kids or not.
Sounds fair.
Do we need to establish a line going forward where we would, go back to, if we change another elective, how far would it go back?
And I think those are really case-by-case conversations, because I think it is an unusual situation that we're doing in terms of not changing the course, but changing the, I don't think that happens often in terms of, usually it's a curriculum change or a new course or something from this standpoint. And again, Dr. Scheich, really working with the curriculum folk, I think will be your guide to be that first level of gatekeeper in terms of recommendations in those, in those one-offs where that situation happens, but I think it will be infrequent, would be my guess.
Yes, I do see it being very infrequent.
Okay.
This kind of just stood out, this class, this program is just so exceptional. Because I probably would have pushed back a little bit more on the idea. But I've seen it in action, and I've watched these kids, and I've sat with these kids, and I've seen what they do, and they really just deserve it. So to me, it's the exception, not the rule. I mean, maybe we'll have this conversation about another class sometime, but I would imagine we're changing the curriculum to ask for that. This really was the exception.
And actually, I don't know that it is gonna open a big door, because those kids who are counting all of their credits would have to take 2 academic courses before they could take this honors course, so they'd still miss that for 2 years, so I think it's really just giving credit to the kids for their talents in those, classes.
Good conversation.
All right.
Sounds really good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
You're gonna do 2 separate. You have to tell Alan he has to buy you lunch tomorrow.
Oh, we put you through the gauntlet.
Dr. Norman, thank you for your patience.
It's a tough act to follow, though. Can't promise you that our discussion will be even remotely as exciting, but.
Okay, so this is the AP Environmental Science text discussion, part 2? Part 2.
2.0 version.
Yes.
I do want to thank you for the opportunity to revisit this proposal, and I am especially grateful for the time to conduct additional research and appropriate research to find out what's really going to serve our students in the best ways possible. So at the request of the board, we conducted a survey of all current AP students and did structure it so that they could only respond once. Right, so we have students in multiple AP courses, but we were only hearing from each student one time, regardless of the number of AP classes they were taking, and just polled them on their textbook preferences. And the overwhelming majority, nearly 3/4 of them, reported that they preferred having both a printed version and access to a digital copy. What I've done as well, and I can share these with you if you like, is kind of compiled, I did some coding of some data, and compiled a lot of the common themes. And if you'll allow me just to read a couple of them for you, they're pretty much the same thing, but it's stated in different ways. I like reading in the textbook on actual physical paper for the nightly reading at home, but I like to study using the tools that are provided through the online textbook website and read the online version during study hall, so I don't have to bring my book to and from school to read it. Right, so the common theme that arose a lot was not having to carry the text a lot. However, I find the experience of using a physical textbook easier to read and manage. Reading chapters from a computer screen strains my eyes, and it's annoying to constantly have to scroll. It's easier to find things, flipping through pages, and I can take better notes and feel like I learn better from the text and can find things easier from the printed copy. So those, again, were restated in many different ways over and over and over again. And you can see by some of the numbers and the percentages that we've provided that the second most popular option was the printed text alone. So it was only a very, very small minority of students who felt like they could adequately learn from a digital resource only. So moving forward, our proposal now includes access to the student's ideal, what's going to give them the best opportunities to learn in the most thorough and substantial ways possible, which is access to both the print and the digital. Yes?
So originally, I think we've kind of been going in cycles here about, do we get this one, do we get the paper copy or the e-copy? And so I think we went from not having an e-version to going to an e-version and having a class set of textbooks. But I'm interested, since we just had this discussion with the social studies textbooks as well, it seems like primarily the kids want the physical copy of the book. And so I'm just wondering, can we do what they did in almost what they did on social studies, where everyone, we get, a paper, you know, a rough copy, you know, whatever, for every student, and then just a class set of the e-books. Because it doesn't seem like they really use the e-book, you know, based on the survey, it doesn't seem like there's a focus to use those e-books as much. So maybe having that shared e-book just for a class set, because it seems like it's the paper copies that they want to be able to bring home and use and study with. So, just wondering, could we looked at everyone having an e-version and only having a class set of paper
Right.
copies, but could we reverse that? Kind of like what they were talking about a little bit in social studies.
That's probably the one option that we did not explore, to be honest with you.
And it seems like
Looked
it'd be the
about every
perfect
different
fit based
combination.
on their feedback, right? Because they want to have a little bit of access to that electronic version maybe
They
in
do.
class. But when they're going home and studying, they want that paper copy because it's straining their eyes, other than 4%. And that 4% can have access to that class set because the other classes wouldn't be using it, they'd be using the paper copy.
Right, we would have to look at what restrictions, if any, are placed on the digital access. Is it literally one login per student? Can we use the multiple, you know, like one teacher login and do teacher 1 through 40, or whatever the case may be, that would grant the students access? You know, I would just be concerned that 2 of them using teacher 40 would try to log in at the same time, and one student would be blocked out while the other student would have access, and who wins the race to log in first?
But wouldn't we have that same problem with the social studies? Because that's exactly what we're doing.
Depends on the publisher, to be honest with you, as to how they manage their licenses. So it would be a question that we would need to ask, in this case specifically of Cengage Publishing, to say, what restrictions do you have on your licenses, and, you know, how much flexibility is there on having, you know, multiple people use the same login and so forth.
Well, I just wonder if you ask them the question, they probably
They're gonna
would say,
restrict
oh yeah, sure, do that, but I don't know, did we ask did we ask that question with regard to the social studies one, and the fact that we're doing a class at that level?
I can speak to that, because this is an AP class, and that is a middle school social studies class.
Right.
And it is
Very different.
very different. And when we talked about the book, the actual text as a resource, it really is, that textbook is used as a resource. You're not gonna see the students using that as their full curriculum. Then we talked about the access to the online materials. We are going to try that this year to see if that works. I do anticipate some level of problems there, multiple students trying to use that resource and can't. We were limited by funds because that was the program improvement money from last year. So that is what we could do this year, and we are hoping that that is a model that will fit best. But I don't know that it's a fair comparison between middle school social studies and the AP environmental. And I do worry, because this is the second survey that we have done, and I do worry that we will not be able to give a fair playing field to all the students. Some have access to the e-materials, while the other ones are waiting for the e-materials. I will say this, that we could do a cost differential so that you can see it. If that
It's not
is helpful, it isn't. It isn't significant. I mean,
I'm
relatively
really looking
speaking.
at the fact that you have 4% of the population that's really going to be accessing that e-version at home. The rest of them are gonna be using that paper copy, and so if you made sure that that 4% didn't have the same login, you know what I mean?
I would caution against that.
Yeah,
So nearly 75% of them wanna have access to both.
73%.
most want both, and they did give examples about being in the study home, being able to access that. There's a lot, actually, you have the paper
Yeah.
versions of all that,
Sure.
right? If you want it. There are a lot of comments on here that might give you more information on what students are thinking. They really are thinking that, if you're asking me, both of these.
See, because the kids, what I was hearing is that the kids wanna have the access to the ebook at school, but they wanna have the paper copy at home, because all of their reading, when you're in an AP course, you're doing all of that at home. And so that's where they wanna be able to use their text.
Yeah, but they're saying,
And so
no
most of
logging
them-
on during school,
Yeah.
they're using the e-version.
Yeah,
So most of them were saying that what they do is they leave their textbooks at home and then access the e-version at school, so that way they don't have to carry their books back and forth.
Some
And so
said
that's
that.
why they want both, so they can use the e-version while they're here in class.
We'll say some said that and some didn't. Some will carry the textbook. There's even a few comments in there that you can tell they're on sports teams or in after-school activities, because they will reference that they like to be able to pull out the book when traveling, when away with, you know, whatever team or group. If they're are affiliated with, so there are a few comments that specify that. You know, generally speaking, it seems like most would take the textbook home, but there are some who are just strongly prefer it, and